Okay, this afternoon I'm going to be doing a Christmas card, and it was requested by Robin. So I thought for those that are out of town members and others, I'll actually do this on a recording for you. So I've got an A4 sheet of paper, and the A4 sheet of paper has been cut in half. Well, it's not cut, it's actually folded. And so I'll just show you how I do that, because I've got benches in the kitchen that I basically put the paper, the straight paper, put it up against the edge of the kitchen bench and then fold it. And so once I've done that, I don't fold it hard at that point. So then I put it down and I get a pencil and I rub along it with a pencil to actually fold it. And that folds it pretty flat when you actually do that. So you can make a card out of this, and then you can actually photograph it and send it to a printer of any sort and do your cards. I need that to be relatively straight. Okay, so I've partly drawn it up, but I'll go through the drawing with you. And because I draw quite crooked, I actually use a set square and put it on the edge of the paper and do the actual post going down into the pot that I've got there. That's not even straight either. So I'll just do it again and just put it in places, not completely, so that I can see that I've actually drawn that. I can move in a little bit so that you can see a little bit closer. But I always use a set square these days because I don't get the lines very straight, and it looks a bit strange if you don't. Okay, so then I've got just the edge to the pot showing around here, just an edge, just a double edge of a pot, just the edge. And I've got a longer edge of flowers and a shorter edge, and just the ground underneath the pot. The flowers will come down over this side, but I'm going to use this as the lighter area over here and the darker side over here, so that it'll have darker edge on the pot. Then I've got basically looking like a Christmas tree, but it's not exactly a Christmas tree, but I've just wound that up through there, and that'll have just some greenery coming down there to represent a Christmas tree. So it's like a Christmas card, but it's not, it's a little bit Greek, if you like the idea of that. You can change it if you don't want the flowers around and things like that. So whatever you want to do, you can change. Okay, so I'm just using my normal palette, okay, my messy palette, which is excellent. Because of the fact that it's got a lot of colours mixed together, it becomes a more complex palette. And so now I'm going to be just starting to paint. I'll sit down, grab my chair, sit down. And the drawing that I just did there with that pencil is fairly strong, but I can actually take it off if I don't paint over it entirely later. So I'll start out with the post, and the post is just a little bit of a raw sienna, sort of a light colour. Won't make it too dark, and I'll put it this side of that pencil so that I'll have a chance to get some of it off. That'll come off later. You can see a longer stretch of it there. Just a post coming down, and I won't put it completely into the pot, or you could put a little bit further down here if you wanted to see it go into the pot. Probably would have to go into the pot or it'll fall over. And then I'll start on the actual pot itself and get that to have some colour on it. So I'll start out with the raw sienna, just add a little bit of indifferent to it to make it into a colour. Probably a bit more burnt sienna, just something like that, just to get a colour, but it'll be very, very light. So this will be the light area on my pot. Put a little bit of other colours or a little bit more water. So that's the lightest part. And if I make that big enough and get other colours on, it won't overtake that area because that'll be drying. Then I'll go to an ordinary browner sort of a colour, a little bit more like an Australian red gold in it. Make it a little bit goldy. And a little bit of water so it's wet. Okay, so that'll join up with this. It can come up the top just through there. I won't try and do the whole thing perfectly. And over to this side, and that'll be the edge of some of the actual foliage that's coming in there. So I'll leave it with a rough edge and just keep adding colour. It is my darker side, so that'll go around the pot. You can leave little bits of white if you want to, but I don't think it helps. That's the darker side. Now, I started over here on this side because it's the darker side, coming over to this area here, which is my light, and basically just make that edge uneven so it doesn't look like I've left a hole. And then into the lighter side, and I'll pick up more water on my brush and just join this up quickly. This will have foliage and leaves there, so I'll leave a little bit of a gap. And that's sort of coming down the edge of the pot. And that's back into this colour. Again, I can see edges there. Just keep painting backwards and forwards in it. And now I'm going over to the darker side, and the darker side will be burnt sienna and indethrin. And that makes a really rich brown. And while it's wet, I'm coming into the darker side. So that will go into there. Make it come round the pot. Paint round the pot so you get a roundness to it. Underneath this lip, make sure this line's not straight. Make sure it looks like the pot's round. So that's making the pot look rounder and just leaving some brush marks in it. Make it more interesting. I need my browns to get a little bit of pink in them. So I've picked up a little bit of crimson. It's gone, Crimson Lake. And come back into here, and I can get that to be pinker, a little bit more colour underneath the lip. Come round the bottom, pick up a bit more water and let this go into water. And a little bit more around here. Otherwise, I don't get the highlight on the pot if I don't do that. You still got the highlight, pushing the paint away, looking at the shape that I'm actually creating. And so now I've got a light in it. I'll let that get dry for a little bit, and also just a little bit of paint while I've got the colours underneath the pot. Just a little bit of water on the brush and just get something that'll sit underneath the pot. Could have a little bit of the green there too, just don't leave it dead straight. A little bit of green, so I've got Winsor yellow and indethrin, and I'll make that into light and dark as I go. And I'll just put a couple of drops of green down here as if something's dropped down on the side of the pot. You can do it on both sides if you want to, but you sort that out as to what you actually want on there. It's actually getting drier now, so I can actually come back to that pot and finish the pot now and get that to be darker with the indethrin, burnt sienna, and a little bit of alizarin crimson, any of the pinks, just a darker pink, and come back and get another darker edge. And just let that get around the shape of the pot as well. That comes up around here. Can come into there a little bit more, a little bit around the top of the pot. So now it's got a bit of a rim on the pot. Okay, so now I'm starting to work into the bottom of the pot. Get that to have some darks as well. And underneath the pot, get the two so that you can't actually see exactly where they go. And if I turn the brush this way, I get a totally different edge to the paint. Because it's rough paper, it'll give it a bit of a rough edge, which is more interesting than just being flat painted. Okay, I'm going to greenery now. So I'll go up the tree, just got a little bit of the paint that I had on the brush, but a bit of water. And I'm just going to come up here. Well, that doesn't have anything on it. Up here, and just get some of the shape of what's happening around the actual holes. So that'll give me the shape of what's happening down into the pot. And then I can put some greenery onto that. Now the green is Windsor yellow, and a little bit of indethrin, but more on the indethrin side, and a little bit more yellow in it, and water. And so now that'll follow down round the tree. We'll go out to that edge there, come round, come out to that edge, come down around to that edge, coming back, and it's just brush marks. I'll go over to this side because that's the lighter side while it's getting lighter. And now I'll put more paint on the brush, and this will come back over to the darker side. Just touch those while I'm coming down, just where I've got the pencil. Bit more water to come over to the lighter side. Just brush marks. Back to the darker side. A bit more water. Make sure you've got plenty of water on the brush. Back to the lighter side, water. That one could come out a bit further. Getting a little bit more on the tree. And so you've basically got a tree that looks like a real watercolour. Okay, so when I come down to here, it'll just come out to about that section there, and that'll join in with the flowers soon. Get a bit more body at the bottom of the tree, water over this side. That's a lot of water I got then. Doesn't matter though. Fill in down the bottom here, and then start on the actual foliage that's on there. So on the light side, I'll start with Windsor yellow, and it's dirty, so it will just have a little bit of yellow in it. It's still wet. I won't fill it in entirely. Come down to a smaller area of foliage down the bottom, and then I'll go over the other side and go back to the darker. That is more indethrin in the green. So in here, water, don't forget your water. This is on the darker side. Leave some gaps. And that's got your darker side of your colour. Now I'll change over to another colour. And some of the colours will join together, so don't worry about that. So I'll start out with a pink, alizarin crimson. I'll change over, but you can use any of your darker pinks, and I'll put water on the brush. And so this is the darker side. So the water I put on the brush will just do flowers in through here. And then more water on the brush over here will give me some of these colours out here, as long as I hit the dry paper. Once I don't hit dry paper and go in there, I'll just get the colour muted, and the colour joins in with the green. And so those colours change as I come down. Change to different colours now. On the darker side, I'll go into some of the different coloured pinks. Maybe I've got a hot pink, but I think that's not a Christmas colour. I'll start in the darker pinks. I've got red, Windsor red, and mix it with the other pink that I had, the Crimson Lake. And now I've got a different colour again. Start on the darker side. It'll run. It'll do whatever it wants to do. Could go over onto the actual pot, and that will give me a darker colour as well. Let's give it a break and go somewhere else. I'll come down the bottom with this one, finish off the flowers there, and then move over to the other colour here. And so now I've got Windsor red and Crimson Lake together. Sometimes I say those wrong, so just be careful. and water. I did have the crimson out on the desk, and I don't know what's happened to it. Just to get the right name for that. It's a Holbein colour. And yep, it's disappeared. All right, won't worry about that. A dark pink. That can go in and run. This is the lighter side. Make sure you come over your pot so that you're fixing up the edge to the pot. A little bit down here. Okay, so now I'll start to get a darker value. And what I'll do is use those two colours and add indifferent to it. So I've got Windsor Red, and you know this is going to make a purple, Crimson Lake, and indifferent. And this will make a very, very dark purpley colour. Water on the brush, don't paint dryly. That's on the darker side. A little bit of flowers over here. Make sure that edge is not straight. Okay, so then I'll go into water in the light side. I need more paint. Still the lighter side, so I'll come in here. You can still get some in through here as well, which makes it very pretty. In with the green still wet. So what I'm doing is just filling the bottom of that. It's getting a little bit too even in that, so I'll come out a little bit that way. Okay, now I'll come back to the actual pole and come back for extra paint over that, and it'll be wet. So Winsor Yellow and indifferent, and hopefully it's still a little bit wet. And just come in here and just get a little bit more in it. Just out on the ends. You can join it up a little bit more if you want to. I don't really want to. And now it's got a different colour on the dark side. Join it up so it joins up down the bottom, so you haven't got it separate from the flowers at the bottom. And now water on the brush over this side. That's water on the brush, just some out through here. You get a different colour. I had to pick up more paint, so I'll just make sure it's not too dark. Come up to the top of the tree. Just get a little bit of a section up there. I'm not going to put a star on top of the tree, but I'm going to pick up some of the darker now and get it closer to the centre where it's coming in around here. Just to make it look like it's joining up. Okay, so now I'll get a, I'll do it in green, I guess, in the darker green, and come through and get just a fine line. I can either do it with a rigger, a very small rigger, or I can use the brush, but I might get it too thick if I do that, and start to get some darker green coming up through here. So I'll just start to get the line down through there. That was the original line I had. I'll go over the other side. I'll come back around. Can be going up that way. Needs to look like it's going around nicely up to here. I'd be probably happier if I was upside down, but I'm not. Then it would swing around and go up through here and up around there. So now you've got the thread of what's actually holding it. This one could have gone up a bit higher, so I'll do it anyway, just so you look like you can join up with that one. So now it's got the greenery up through there. The pole itself, I could make it, and I'll pick up just the dirty paint that I had, and I'll make it just where I can see gaps in it, just put a little bit of a darker edge on it. That's where that dark pencil was anyway. Make it come down to the pot. Okay, so what I'm doing is waiting for this to dry a little bit, and then I'll come back with other colours in it. It's really pretty over here where it's got the yellow and the orange together. And it might be worth getting a little bit of orange over here, because otherwise it's mixed. It's sort of just one colour one side and a different colour the other side. So I'm going to pick up Winsor yellow and put some out through here in the edges. Just a little bit Winsor yellow in it, and then I'll put some of the pinks in it. So while it's wet, I've just put the pink in, so that will go out and give you a different edge and lighten that up a little bit. It was looking a little bit drab. Okay, so now I can come back with some greenery and get little bits and pieces with the greenery and Winsor yellow and indethrin. Now, indethrin will go from the palest blue to the darkest blue, and that's why I use it a lot. Water and greenery. Could be lighter, could be a bit more yellow over here. Pick some of the gaps. Pick edges. Down through here, I'll let it get a little bit darker down here. And it could go right down to the bottom here with greenery. Just an edge, and then into the darker pink and the purpley colour where it's going down underneath the pot here. Just to finish off there, you've got some greenery now, and this one the same thing. It can have more yellow and green. It's a little bit tight, this. What I want to do with this is just, I've got the brush dry, and what I'm going to do is just fill some of the gaps in. It's just too much, the one colour. And then I'll let it come out with the dirty colour. Just let it come out softly in places. Could come up there a little bit. Just to get a different shape in the group of flowers that we've got there. And I've got nothing much across here. So I'm just going to bring the green and indethrin up there. Just get some more flowers in through here as well. So I've just put the green in. Now I'm coming back with the pink, which is Crimson Lake, Winsor Red, and just get some in through here. And that'll go dark anyway. Some over the lip of the pot. That'll join these two bunches up, and then I'll put some yellow in with it. And so now if I just paint with yellow, that will hopefully change some into that orangey colour. So that'll join the two lots of flowers together. Okay, what else have we got? Okay, I'll come back to the greenery on the actual Christmas tree. This is still wet. Out to the other side. Get some other bits out through here. Just widen the Christmas tree just a fraction with just another edge. And that makes it look more like a Christmas tree where you've got those little bits sticking out. Just let the brush dance around the page. Just fill that in just a fraction in the middle. And then I'll come out the other side. Just drop some water in here and just see what it does. So you'll see the original colour, but you'll also see the other colours moulding together, giving it more body. Okay, back to the pot. The pot can have some really rich brown on it now. Burnt sienna and indethrin, but more burnt sienna side. And the card's starting to bend now, but that'll straighten out later. And I'll just start to come down here, get some colour on and let the brush do the work for me. Wash the brush. Just let the brush leave marks on it as if it's an old pot. Where the pot's on the ground, bring it up to the flowers, make it go into the flowers so that some of the flowers disappear. Scrub on it. And so now you've got a really good body to the pot. This sort of work allows you to look like you've got some body on there, like a handmade pot rather than a pristine pot. And I think just about here I need some dark, but not a lot. It's where the flowers are actually shading it, just down here and around the pot. So I'll just get some in here where we've got the edge to the pot. Coming around, see what I've got. I am leaving it round so that it looks like it's actually a round pot. And I can paint over those flowers because it won't hurt. That's got to look like it's going around. Underneath the pot, I can put just a little bit of something underneath the pot. A little bit more underneath there. Just picked up some blue. Break it in with the blue, and then I'll just wet some of it. That'll mix in with the brown. Just give it some sort of character in through there underneath the pot. That turned it into being a little bit green, but that doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm looking at the outside edges too. I need just some leaves, just a few leaves out through here. And you can check yours and see what you want to change with colours and bits and pieces. I could have some other colours in through here, just a little bit, not much. That's about it. I could get some of the lines down through there, which would be just the lines down through the vine. So I've got Winsor yellow and green together, Winsor yellow and indethrin, and I could get just some branches coming down through here, so that down through there you can see some branches coming down through and hanging on to some of the actual flowers. Otherwise there's nothing hanging it together. What else down through here? That won't show much, but I could get a little bit of a vine hanging out of that. That'd be quite nice just to get something hanging out of the pot. And then on that, I guess, because I just did it, I'll just put a little bit of green on some of those. It should come back and touch the pot. That connects it back together. Okay, I think it's got a bit heavy there, so don't be afraid to wash your brush and dry it. And just in here, just come back in through there and just get a bit of light back. Just got very dark. That'll do. All right, so I hope you've enjoyed that. It's just something small, but something that you can actually paint and then have it photographed and make your Christmas card. If you want to write on it, that's something that we haven't done a lot of. writing on something. And if you wanted to write on that, and I wanted to put Merry Christmas on there, I'd probably use the set square again for that reason. And I can straighten it up with the side of the page here. And that should be straight across. And so what I'll do is a line. I'll do how big do I want the actual writing to be, how high. So let's say about that high. And then I want the letters to come to where? I'll mark it there where I can see that I need the letters. And then get this back on there. I could do it there. If this was dry, I could put it up that way and I would get a better line. It would be straighter because I'd get more of the page to actually straighten this up on. A third line. And make sure you've got a pen that works. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Okay. And now I've got something to aim for, and that's just about when you spell it wrong. Can't see the bottom of the page. Okay, so when that's dry, I'll rub out the pencil and you'll have something there that's something of your own for Christmas, something personal, something you can do for people to give something of pleasure. So hopefully you've enjoyed that. Just get some greenery up the edge there. Okay, thanks for listening.